What's up, guys? Today I decided that I would go ahead and keep reading some more what if questions because they were beginning to get a little interesting and I thought it was a fun topic. So I'm continuing off that one website that I was looking at, which I absolutely failed to post in the description, but I'll get to it. And I believe that the question we left off was what if you could change one awful event in world history, but it might mean that you would never have been born? Well, for starters, my existence is never negotiable. I guess you guys found that out on one of my topics a few days ago. But if I had to realistically answer that question, if I could change one awful event in world history, I mean, there's so many awful events, but they tend to revolve around the same thing, which is stuff like war and I guess slavery and um, basically events where a lot of people get hurt. And I guess I would be better at answering the question if I knew exactly how it would impact my birth. But I guess if I think about it critically, given that my ancestors are European, then I would have to assume that the awful outcome of establishing the nation, which is going to war, if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't have been born because my folks wouldn't have come over and they wouldn't have met with whomever they paired up with, so that eventually my generation would come about. But honestly, I don't feel intrigued enough to want to be like, okay, let's change that world event so that although I'm not born, it changes history. So I guess the United States wouldn't be a thing. It would be its own thing, but just a little differently. Maybe the natives might have expanded somehow, and then European intervention and involvement wouldn't have been a thing. But honestly, I think that's kind of difficult to predict because honestly, given their technological advancement, it's so difficult to imagine that being a thing. But let's just say that somehow that war that established the United States didn't happen. And hello everybody, I'm not ignoring you. I just like to just say everything that I have to say and then get to the comments. Um I guess yeah, life would be a whole lot different for a lot of us, especially if you're in this country. So I guess although I wouldn't exist to experience this, at least I would like to see what would have happened had the United States not established itself how it is right now. So I guess that would be worth looking into. What if you could change one thing about the world? What would it be? I guess the one thing that I would like to change about the world is a little bit psychological, and it's about how people react to certain things. And to provide an example, for me, there's just stuff that is never worth getting mad over. I don't like for stress to get to me, and I know that those things really can transform a person. You can have the sweetest kindness, like kindest person ever, and all of a sudden they are exposed to something stressful and then their personality changes. They're just not the same, and you even wonder if this person has a soul sometimes. I just wish that those things that make us stressed out weren't a thing. And I guess that by me saying that, I am asking that we don't have so many of the modern stuff going on, like say freaking 2 day shipping, which who needs that? But I guess some people do. Um, like those workers definitely undergo some serious stuff to make sure that the logistics happens the way it needs to happen so that we as the consumer get our stuff right. Um, but but yeah, I just wish that we were happier, and I think the way to go about being happier is by minimizing the things that stress us out. And I guess a very good step would be to definitely reduce the number of hours that some people work. because I feel like humans are not supposed to be occupied for long periods of time doing that type of stuff, like very hard physical labor. I mean, some folks in history have gone through it, and that's how we got to where we are now. Someone had to suffer, but realistically, I just wish that our values were a little bit different. And I bring that up with certainty about being a thing that I would change about the whole world because I see it everywhere. And what I mean by that is folks who come from other places and I hear them talk about what's important to them. It seems to be consistent with those things that I mentioned about, I want to work a lot so that I can have a lot of money and all that good stuff. It's like, okay, you can work and have a lot of money, but if you're clearly devoting yourself too much to where even your health is being affected, then I think you may need to reconsider some things and change some things. Because I don't think it's fair that you have to work to make money to then end up spending money trying to fix your health that you lost in your quest to make money. That just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I'm not saying that you'll automatically get sick for working more and trying to make more money, but I'm just saying take it easy. It's okay to take your time with stuff. Just take it easy. What if you could find a cure for a disease? Which one would you want to cure? Well, this is going to sound kind of egotistical, but I wish there was a cure for endometriosis because, darn it, it's just a very painful thing. It also puts one's fertility at risk. And honestly, every time that day of the month hits, I think that I'm not gonna make it from how painful it is. But if I could think of a cure for the general public, like to where guys can participate in that as well, I would have to say definitely the common cold because it's kind of gross. Like when the cold season comes around and everyone just gets sick with the same mess, and sometimes some people may even end up with other kinds of problems like maybe the stomach bug or something. That's another one that's immensely irritating. So I guess I would cure something like that. Whatever takes people out of their game most often. Like when people get the flu or something, they tend to call out, and then that affects the team. Stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I don't think we need to be living amongst the flu and all that. Like, I just think it's gross and just god awful because you have headaches, you have fevers, you. I just wish that you could just stay in bed all day when you have that thing, but you gotta be alive still, eat and stuff. So that's one thing that I would get rid of for everybody. What if you could have a free chip in your child's brain to provide all basic knowledge, math, language, and history facts, etc.? That's interesting. I have thought about this before. I have thought about what if instead of going to school for like, let's say 18-ish years, you could just somehow swallow some kind of pill that somehow supplies you with all of the knowledge and all the information that you need to know for the rest of your life to be a responsible and just good member of society. Honestly, I feel like that would be so boring in a sense because I think part of the thing that makes life exciting is the process of you going through things, letting time pass, and you determining whether practicing a skill by obtaining pieces of knowledge is your forte and what isn't your forte. Because imagine if you could just say at age 4, remember to plug your child in with this chip so that they get all the knowledge they need. It's like, why do you need to be knowing so much at such a young age? I think that part of aging gets too exciting. Um, gets exciting when you explore those things at your rate, at your speed, individually. But honestly, I feel like that would make people I think it would make the world dull. Uh, that's just the best way I have to say it, because now the the actual art of, say, teachers teaching, that would be lost as well. And to me, that's a devastating effect, because I learned a whole lot from my teachers beyond the academic setting. I wouldn't want to give up that experience and that knowledge, because what would be the point of school if you can just have this chip put on your brain? See what I mean? So, how about if we don't alter the things that make us human? I feel like having all that knowledge without going through the process, it's it's not effective for me. Now, maybe part of the knowledge is that the process that you would undergo to develop those knowledges and skills is already implied within this chip programming thing, but still, nothing beats the genuine experience. So yeah, I would have to leave it at that one. Um, what if you could live forever and the earth remained just as it is now? Honestly, that is kind of difficult to predict, I guess. Hold on. Maybe it means that, say, the continents would shift, there would be no more climate change, no meteors could hit, and the earth still had oceans and all that. Um, Endangered species would still be around. Humans keep reproducing at the same rate. Well, I guess if it's just me that has the, can I call that a privilege of living forever? Then I don't have to worry about overpopulation and whatnot. But then if overpopulation is a thing, I don't think it would matter either, because that means resources are not running out, because that's what's sustaining me. See, this can go in so many directions. I don't. But anyways, first of all, I wish that I knew for a fact, just like everybody, what happens after death. Because maybe death sounds all scary and whatnot, but it really isn't. So, if life really is a superior experience than being dead, then I would say, if I could live forever, it would be exciting for me that I'll be able to have all the time in the world to be able to catch up with stuff like music, TV shows, learn languages. And what I mean by that is, exactly yesterday, I was telling my mom, the folks who end up stressed out to where they take their own lives. I wonder really what's going on in their mind that makes them think there's no way out, because seriously, in the midst of a challenge, I know that life can get difficult and discouraging and frustrating, especially if you're alone and people don't give you support and say that you do something stupid and all of a sudden you're like alienated. Um, During that time, you seriously do not have anything that you find intriguing, captivating enough to stay alive for. Now, I'm not trying to say that that's ultimately what leads people to commit that act. I know it's more complicated than that. But if I were caught in that situation to where I feel like life is no longer worth it because I'm stressed out and those around me don't believe in me and whatnot, you better believe that I'll find a new hobby. I'll find something to keep me occupied, because this is a big world. This is a big planet. Life is just beautiful to me. I like the fact that there's so much to see, so many people to meet, so many cultures with their own stuff going on. Why not be excited about exploring that stuff? See what I mean? So to be alive forever, to be able to have time to visit every single place in the world that's inhabitable and all that, that would be super exciting. I would love to know what music sounded like by many different artists just since the beginning of music being recorded. That's one thing. And sometimes I find music in other languages that I'm like, wow, this sounds amazing. I don't know a word of what it's saying, but at least I found the music, I found the instrumental arrangement, I found the performers' skills, their vocalists. You know, I heard this voice for the first time. They're singing in another language, but they still, have a good intonation and whatnot. Stuff like that. It would be exciting to have all the time in the world to see what everybody has been up to, especially in YouTube. I sometimes watch a video, and at the end of it, when it was very, very, very interesting, I wonder just how many videos are out there just waiting for me to find them because they are absolutely what I love to see, but I may not get around to it because, some channels are not easy to find, other channels are there, but I do not explore them in its entirety because they may have like 10,000 videos or so. And I sure as hell am not going to sit through and marathon 10,000 videos. See what I mean? It would be exciting to see the type of, let's call it art, that people are putting out there, and also actual art. What are people drawing? What are people tracing? What are people building? And I just find it intriguing that I would be able to witness all of that and every single food combination possible. I would try that. Even the stuff that I know I wouldn't dare to eat, I would still give that a shot. So, so yeah, that would be the stuff that I would focus on if I could live forever. I highly doubt that with an eternal life I will run out of new things to see because someone from every single generation has something unique to bring into the planet. So to be able to have time to encounter all of those things, everybody's stories, everybody's contribution, that's exciting. So, but at some point, again, what is the point of perishing? There has to be a point to perishing. So I wonder if I would be frustrated at some point that I just cannot go like everyone else does. Because it's like, yeah, 300 years ago, I was totally with this guy, and this guy, like this guy, there was never another guy. And for 300 years, I have been so like dissatisfied in my relationships, and I just wish that that other guy could have just been with me because now I have to start over. The generation who knew me already died out, so now I have to present myself to the new generation and they have to start finding out about me. It's like if I sit down with someone to tell them a story, like say a child, and they ask for a story of, I don't know, when I was young, just how long ago was I young? What is my aging like? And say that I've been around for like 300 years. What was so captivating for me to tell you? I will have so much experience that I will not be able to determine what you have time to hear me say. You see what I mean? It's like I have eternal life, kid, so I can tell you just about anything, but darn it, I dropped my iPod. But, anyways. But yeah, kid, like seriously, this is gonna take a while. You better stop me because I can sit here and tell you a story for 20 years because I don't have a sense of time anymore. See what I mean? So, like, just what story would I tell a child? Like, there was once this one war and a lot of people got messed up and whatnot. Your grandparents were probably in it, and you see, that would be confusing. Like, what story should I tell you that's worth your time, and how to summarize it because they, have been around for so long that I wouldn't know what's important to tell and what isn't. So, yeah, guys, I am going to attempt to load your comments from my computer so that I don't ruin my stream, the little bit of life it has left starting to slow down again. Hopefully, I won't just yet. So let's see. Great, that went smooth. It usually doesn't, especially if I'm online already. Because I am sure that once I touch that phone, it is going down. It just is. So I'm not gonna try to touch it and scroll. It teased me. It says that I am not connected to the network. Why? Why? Y'all want to see Zam trying to log in live and her frustrations with computers? This is going to be it. I may have a genuine response out of this if I cannot get it to cooperate. Oh man. Says I'm connected. Why am I not connected? Oh, I know why I'm not connected because it's probably still stuck to my other device, which I don't know where it landed. Oh, it's right behind me. Yuck. Great. Okay. Let's see. So let's turn this one off. Then the computer should know who to look for. And then I go here, here. Why won't you just cooperate? You know what? Forget it. I am going to take a massive risk and start scrolling, see what you guys are saying, because clearly this piece of tech is not going to work like I want it to. And I've wasted enough time already trying to diagnose it. So here we go. Let's see. I'm going to try to be careful about it. Alright, okay, all of y'all were saying hello. If you don't mind the question, where are your people? France, Spain, and of course, some African somewhere, but known exactly which country that's from. Um, but but yeah, like I've asked around if mom knows exactly where the Afro folks came from, but we don't have a way to trace that. What if we are just God's entertainment? I have had a similar thought like that. I always thought of it as, you know what, God decided one day that he's just bored and he's like, okay, these just as flawed as possible. So up things, and then those messed up things entertain me, or even the stuff that's irritating can be entertainment. So I don't know, representation of God's sense of humor, if we can call it a sense of humor. Let's say personality. All of us who have distinctive personalities, what if we are that way because we are, aren't we supposed to be in God's image? Maybe we're just all a little weird for that reason. Let's see. I'm a classic old blood American. I am part Choctaw, and the wars fought between the tribes were brutal. Europeans literally civilized the place. Our civil things. Among ourselves as Europeans did with greater tribes were exterminated by neighbors. Girl, you think too much. Your head is going to explode. Nah. Actually, my head or explode if I just didn't try talking about this, Jimmy. I I find this fascinating. For me, the European, Caribbean, and part of the African culture was next the whites as much target enemies. The black were owned or claimed by, and each in turn lost the area to the invading. I'm not trying to say that amongst the tribes there were never disagreements, because definitely there's to be competition among civilizations no matter where you are at. or where you live at. But from that point of view, what would a tribal revolution would have been like in this country? Like, say, whichever tribes were around, if they decided to really have a crack at it for many, many years, what would have happened? See what I mean? And I would imagine that we would have remained more, what's that word? Uh, Homogeneous. So that would have been interesting. But at the same time, I know that brutality has been there everywhere. Like, I guess the the European, all that it did was, of course, spread its culture and ideas. But at the same time, if we wouldn't have had that, then what kind of civilization would we have had? Values be as tribal people? Definitely the environment. I can imagine that we were more respectful back then, so, or in a civilization like that. But anyways, Europeans brought the Africans against the see. Even within Africa, they had their stuff going on, to where it brutal as well. Like, it's not like some tribes, some folks were perfectly happy, living good lives and whatnot until, of course, invaders came about, took that away. But at the same time, I guess within those societies, their ways of disagreeing followed some kind of code. It's like okay, well, who is going to dominate this land? Who's going to dominate these folks, these women, these children, this and that. So, but I guess they would have shared about the same ideal still. The culture would have remained pretty similar, as opposed to this big mix that we have going on. If you are talking USVI people were there way before the Europeans invaded. The slaves brought counting that life I'm thinking, so barring slavery, the Caribs, I guess you mean Caribbean, would still be eating folks had the Europeans stopped them. I was under the impression the Virgin Islands were in the Caribbean. Aren't they? I thought they were. Like, aren't there British European islands? Oh, sorry, Virgin Islands, and then U.S. Virgin Islands? I thought that's how it went. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know my geography too well in that area. Like the Antilles, isn't it what it's called? Yeah. Europeans, humans, people lived in the Carib before the Europeans brought slaves to America. It is. Europeans in the habit of aren't in the habit other people than lunatics of eating people. So Africans were there prior to the slave trade. Fight the New World Order says stop. What if I no racism here, but us Europeans master race, and before anyone says that's wrong or race, not just look at history today and the world today. Well, in my most humble and personal opinion, when it comes to basing being demised off your impact in the world, opinions vary. And I will try to explain that as briefly and simply as I can. And it is, what are the European values? I think that the European values would be like the American values, I guess, which is we value stuff like uh, fame, wealth, fortune. Uh, let's put it this way: comfort, material goods, having people sub subdued to you, working for you, serving you, and all that. It's comfort. I said this before in another stream. When I think about it in the grand scheme of things, humans are not making the world better. We are making the world more comfortable and suitable for us. But when it comes to our impact in the planet in general, I don't think it's that good, especially when we are normally trying to alter the planet, like, say, let's keep it basic, chopping down trees, polluting streams. we create our own food crisis for business reasons. Those kinds of values, in the eyes of people who really love that and enjoy that, the fact that you can go to a store and grab some medicine and feel better, instead of being outside, being exposed to the elements and animals and mosquitoes and you name it. You have comfort, you have sanitation, you have clothes, you can take a shower, you can be comfortable, you can eat at any time, you can store foods in your house so that they're a few steps away. um, you can sleep in a warm or cold bed, however you like it, and all that good stuff. You can have medical assistance and all that stuff. That's comfortable stuff. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't fall in love with things like that? Because it's stuff that's cool and fun and intriguing and all that good stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, some people are not interested in that. I bet you that the indigenous people have never felt compelled to try to update their ways of lives. They're not obsessing over what some people are posting on Facebook. They're not obsessing over having plastics so that you can look young forever. All are making good decisions throughout their lives to preserve their body. They know their body, they know what stuff causes ailments, they know what to get from the backyard if they have it and cure their stuff, whereas we have to rely on other people studying to become professionals to specialize on that and keep us alive. So, because it spread so much, like European imperialism spread, of course, more people have been changed psychologically to find that as appealing. But if you still had the influence of, say, grandparents who were not subdued to that type of stuff, I bet you they would have a very different opinion. And that is perfectly fine. We may look at other people's ways of lives as inferior to ours when I think about it. But at the same time, there are people out there who genuinely all they want to do is be out in the open and just enjoy the planet for what it is. They want no say in politics. They want no involvement in whatever, rituals we may have. Like, say, today is Sunday. A lot of people went to church this morning. That type of thing. Those cultures, that's not what they do. And that's okay. I feel like this imperialism tried to base the world on their image to make it suitable for them. And that's when I think that it becomes rude and just disrespectful and just, to a certain extent, a disgrace because there have been, what can I say, elements of human history that has been lost forever because these people did what they did. See what I mean? But they did what they did because they had the better technology, they had the better tools, and just like parasites, if you are someone who can thrive or a living being that can thrive under harsh conditions, then you will remain attached to your host. But if you unfortunately are not advanced in an immune level, immunology level, whatever I'm trying to say, then of course you're going to succumb to that parasite. So if I put it in human terms, it's like the natives unfortunately did not have tools developed enough to be able to stand the chance against the invaders. So of course you're going to succumb and you will be seen as inferior just because you were not advanced soon enough. But maybe if these folks would not have had their lives interfered with, what would they have accomplished at their own rate, at their own pace? See what I mean? What if they would have been the next superior thing? Imagine a planet in which the natives decided that their value is to conquer across the sea, across the borders, and everything, and the world is in their image. What do you think the world would look like? What do you think the culture would look like? Um, what do you look like? So, but again, I may be completely off. I'm not trying to say that my opinion is the right one. Like on every single stream that I do, I like to say that just so that I'm not treated like in that one free like I'm trying to say that I can rid the world of evil. I'm not that naive, but I like to speculate and try to think for myself how these things impact us as people. But yeah, that's what I think. Let's see. Where am I at? I'm going to try to speed this up, guys, because unfortunately I cannot stay too long today. But it's been an interesting topic. Lewis, not Africans. The word Taino, I would say from direct Africa, more of a mix. My ancestors are from Africa, but people lived there before the Dutch. My grandfather had reason to be angry, yet he held that whites stopped a lot of the bad stuff that went on in their day with your world wars and high suicide rates. Exactly, that too. I'm glad you mentioned that, Garuda, because I have observed that developed nations, aka the ones following the European values, are the ones where people are most stressed, overwhelmed, and you may go ahead and throw in there, but we also have the most successful people, the people who affect the planet in a global scale, and the richest people tend to be of our heritage and whatnot. And I'm like, again, that's by your standards, your definitions of success. For other cultures, the very few genuine ones that still remain that somehow escaped the interference of European values, they would disagree with you. I'm sure they would disagree with you. Um, with your world still not as bad as genital wars. Okay, that's another matter. Taino were not on good terms with the Carib, were they? Rather, as with the tribe on the content fighter for territory. I don't remember hearing of those Caribs people. I need to look that up. I'm trying to remember, but I genuinely don't have a recollection of them. The Europeans destroyed cultures and committed genocide. You can defend the Europeans, but I won't. And see, that's the thing. A lot of history has been lost as a result. What were the history of, say, the Taino? What were the history of these slaves that were brought into the country? What were their names? What country were they from? What was their last name? You know, black folks, they got like English names. What were their original names? You know, that's information that we're just not going to find. We're not going to, it got lost in time. Especially their language. What was their language like? You know, these people were getting beat the English into them. You know, that is, yeah, that's why I say it depends on your perception. What are your values? Because I'm sure that these people, they were born where they were born. Their circumstances might have been, you know, rocky and all that, but something to be proud of. They tend to be very good athletes. That's why they were getting bought. They were getting bought because their physical appearance led their buyers to believe this person is very well fit for labor, you know? So I'm sure they had to be feeling proud that they had a good physical buildup to where the world was seeking them. Um, so yeah, that's something I can think of to just throw in there. I speak the truth, especially if you're speaking the English, if you're speaking European language. Again, English became the universal language pretty much because imperialism, conquering, you were beating the culture out of other people, the people you conquered. If you're going to own somebody, I don't think you're going to appreciate them speaking in their maternal language. because you had the edge at technology and you had a big mass, like your population was greater, then of course you're going to have an advantage. And people are going to recognize English more often because that's just the dominant language in society. It's everywhere. Now, let's say that in 200, 300 years or so, maybe sooner, maybe later, another great revolution happens and a minority group of people somehow develops to where they can be the ones impacting the world. And let's say that they have a completely different language that's not European. That may become the new official language of the world. We may not be around to see that. We live in the time period where the Europeans have won, but I don't think the planet is going to remain this way forever. At some point, people are going to want to reclaim what they have lost, or they may keep English for a little bit, but they may try to evolve it into something different. Anything can happen. Literally, we had genocide here between the people before whites came. After whites were here, tribes here still try to kill each other, or sorry, kill off the guy on the other side of the hill. You forget the wars of the First Nations. It is human behavior at its worst, and to finger point or ignore the rest is folly. Truth or nothing. People say God's word, God's vision, yeah, but us in Europe used to be pagan tribes that had our own gods. It was just the European wars that caused Europe to be Christian. I am not American, so you are free to praise Europeans murdering your ancestors. A true fact here, the further north Europe you go, the less Christian it seems. It seems, if I'm right. I'll say it again. If you don't like Europe, then why are you speaking and typing in a European language, aka English? And I guess I will say it again. When you have the technology in your side, then on your side, the numbers on your side, the masses of people following you and valuing your stuff, and again, the technological advancements to beat the original identity out of people, then of course, English is your only option if you want to stay alive in this planet. If you have, let's call it the misfortune of being born in a culture that's already influenced by European languages, you ain't got no choice. I mean, I feel like people who were not conquered, they fought hard to try to protect their land and everything, protect their language, protect themselves from extinction. But the Europeans had it. They had the better technology and everything. So, but I don't know. If you ask me, everything has a downfall. All empires have fallen, and I feel like this one is not going to last forever either. What I'm trying to say is, let's think of the United States, for example. There's some stuff that we're doing good at, some stuff we're not doing too well at, and the symptoms are there. Like that something big is going to happen to where, once again, we will have some kind of change. We don't know when, we don't know what is going to happen, but yeah. Um, I guess to phrase this simply, the fact that we're all speaking English here is incidental. Um, we speak it because it's just the biggest influence out there as of right now. But at any time, that could change. I mean, uh, people are smart. They can get together and start something. So, but anyways, yep, the British Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands, got sold to the Americans from the Dutch. The planet is dying. Thank you, Europe. If it weren't for the British that took most of Europe, then known as the whole world, the empires of Europe now and past wouldn't have ever existed, as our laws are based on ancient rules. Culture is based on our ancient tribes descent as well. That is true. When most tribes people go into modern society, they tend to get depression or become addicts from being bored and government control. Hey, Sam's. Hey, just gonna say for Europeans, it would have been a different culture and we would still having the same conversation. I learned Mandarin. I had been trying to learn Japanese, but I like to say to myself that I feel like I have a legit language uh, learning disability. I just cannot do very well learning something new. Maybe as a kid I could have, just like I retained a little bit of Spanish when I took it in school. And then I decided to take more advanced courses, but it's something that if you don't practice, it just leaves you. And then while taking Spanish, I also tried to throw French in there since I was doing so well, but no, no, it doesn't work that simply. But yeah, you guys, I will bail on you now. This was a pretty interesting conversation. I enjoyed this quite a lot. Telling in perspective, I think you would actually enjoy some of their videos, or maybe you won't. I mean, I'm always up to learn anything that I'm completely ignorant about. Say I have heard of them. So yeah. If you don't mind battery acid Barry, would you please leave me a comment on like another video so that I can because once I finish the stream, it needs to load, and I don't have anything to write that down on, and I don't want to forget. So if you don't mind dropping me a comment somewhere, I would greatly appreciate it and get to you um, on anything that I may learn. Now, don't be discouraged if, say, tomorrow I am not talking about the stuff that I have learned on that channel, but I do get to everything that everyone suggests to me. It just takes me a minute. Okay, guys, thanks so much for participating and tuning in and engaging on this convo with me, and I will see you soon.